Hello everybody, welcome back to Also Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I am trying to hit 100K on this channel by the end of the year, so your subscription would be much appreciated, especially if you're somebody who's already watching my videos over from the main channel. Also drop a like on this video to help it do better in YouTube's algorithm. It is much appreciated. It's been a couple days since the conference finals in the East concluded, so now we have Bucks versus Suns game one that just went down about, well, it just finished like 5 minutes ago from when I'm recording this. Game one was pretty good. Of course, not as good as it could have been because it wasn't exactly like a close game. It wasn't a blowout, but it wasn't a close game either. It's kind of teetering on that line. So could have been a better game, but ultimately this game was pretty good, and it's mostly good just because I really enjoyed the matchup. Now, first things first, Giannis played in this game, which is huge. He, however, did not play as much as he probably would have if he wasn't coming off of the hyperextended knee, and he didn't play as well as he probably would have if he wasn't coming off of the hyperextended knee. Now, it didn't originally come off like that was going to be the case, because to start this game, he looked very good. He got that chase down block on, I'm pretty sure it was Mikal Bridges, which was like the play of the game. He had a play where he basically stiff-armed DeAndre Ayton for a dunk, and that was early. I think it was both in the first quarter. But he just wasn't really getting to the basket as much as you'd like. He was being used a lot more off ball, which is something that I have always wanted them to do, and it's nice to see it happen. But he wasn't getting a lot of opportunity creating at all. Like, it was pretty much just he was getting assists to him. He only took 11 shots in this game, and 2 of them were three-pointers. So basically he only took, well, actually he made one of them. I was going to say basically only took 9 shots because a three-pointer from him is basically a non-factor, but I guess he did technically make one, so I don't know. But yeah, it was not, it wasn't that he wasn't being aggressive, it's just the opportunity never really found him. There was one possession late where he tried to post up on Cam Johnson and he ripped him. He finished with 3 turnovers. Yeah, it wasn't that bad. He was also in foul trouble, which is why I think there was a little bit of a difference in minutes, but ultimately it didn't really feel like he was playing less because of those fouls, even though we ended up with 5 at the end of the game. Now let's talk about the guard play on the Bucks side of things. So Chris Middleton ended up having a good game. He was having a horrible game initially. I think he started like 2 for 7, and that didn't really improve as the first half came along, or really halfway through the third quarter. But then Middleton did that thing that he's done like 3 times, twice in the Hawks series, once in the Nets series, where he just randomly decided to flip a switch and then be amazing. However, it didn't really last nearly as long because it was late third quarter. He hit 3 threes in a row, which is still crazy, but it wasn't like, wow, this guy just can't miss like he was doing in those 3 games that I mentioned before. So he ended up having a pretty good game, but ultimately it would have been nice to get a little bit more consistency from him, especially because at the point where he turned it on at the end of the third quarter, the Suns had kind of ran away with it. He started to push back, and then early fourth quarter, the Bucks started to make even more of a comeback and get it within single digits. But it would have been nice if he was just pretty good the whole way through. I think that would have changed how the momentum ended up going. Drew Holiday was not good in terms of putting the ball in the basket. He was good playmaking-wise, as he is pretty much every game, but 10 points on 28% shooting from the field is just not very ideal. And he wasn't even like just missing shots. It was ugly, a lot of these misses. Some bad mid-range attempts here or there. I believe there was a spin one that was just like, that was really early in the shot clock for you to take a shot like that. Three-pointer late in game that just bricked really badly. A couple of missed layups, things like that. Speaking of missed layups, PJ Tucker didn't really matter that much, but he did miss some layups, and I had to point it out. Brook Lopez actually played really well in the 23 minutes that he played in this game. The reason why he stopped playing was because he was getting burned on the switches. Now, credit to Brook, he actually gave a pretty good contest. I don't think it was... I don't think what happened in this game in terms of Brook being switched on to guard, specifically Chris Paul and Devin Booker, I don't think it would normally be as bad as it was in this game. But in this game, it was really bad because they were just making difficult shots over him every time. Booker had a couple of mid-range fadeaways over him. Chris Paul had one. He had an and 1-3 on him that was ruled a flagrant because he got way under his airspace and almost injured him. So yeah, Brook was just getting burned on those switches, not because he was getting blown by. because Chris and Book aren't really like the blow by you type of players. Of course, they're faster than Brook Lopez, but for the most part, they're going to look to be more methodical in how they get their offense, and it's not just as simple as I can dribble and I'm faster than you, as it is for a lot of people against Brook Lopez. The Bucks ended up doing small ball with Giannis at center quite a bit. They even went as small as they had Chris Middleton at power forward, and I believe it was Drew, Bryn, Pat Connaughton, Middleton, and Giannis. I know we saw some of that in the early fourth quarter, and quite a bit late as well, just small ball stuff. They were really shifting away from Brook Lopez as this game progressed, but offensively he was really good actually, to the point where I would say he was pretty much a neutral. I mean, he is a -17 in the box score, and they did start to make a run when they went to that small ball lineup, but I do think overall that wasn't necessarily his fault. That's just how the momentum swung. Pat Connaughton, I walked away from this one just wishing that the guy would take less, like try to do less stuff off of the dribble, because every time he did that in this game, it did not end well. Bryn Forbes took a few shots that he shouldn't have taken, and 9 minutes of Jeff Teague. 9 minutes of Jeff Teague in the NBA Finals. Someone on Twitter called him Mike Bootyholzer. It's such a fucking stupidly funny nickname. But yeah, you just don't play. You just don't. I don't care if you have to play 4 on 5. Just don't play Jeff Teague, please. Like, there were minutes in there where it was Jeff Teague and Bryn Forbes was on the bench. So just put Bryn Forbes out there because he's better than Jeff Teague. Like, you can definitely pull off an 8-man rotation here where Jeff Teague is not necessary, and yet he fucking played. So just stop doing that, please. I'm begging you. I can't tell you how much I can't stand watching Jeff Teague play basketball in the fucking NBA Finals of all things when I'm rooting for the Bucks. But after spending 7.5 minutes on the Bucks, let's talk about the Suns side of things. This was just a fantastic game from them. While Booker's efficiency could have been a little bit better, I'd say he had a pretty good game. DeAndre Ayton, absolute masterclass, nearly a 20-20 game on 8 for 10 shooting. It's insane how often DeAndre manages to have 20-plus points, and he only shot the ball like 10 to 12 times because he just has games where he shoots like 80% all the fucking time. Chris Paul, unbelievable in this one. I think it was the third quarter where he really just started to go off. Part of that was on Brook Lopez. Just anything that he wanted was happening. Mid-range shots, a sidestep three-pointer at the top of the key, late clock three-pointer, and one on Brook Lopez that I mentioned earlier. Playmaking, as you know, amazing as it always is. 12 for 19 from the field, 4 for 7 from outside, 4 for 4 from the line. Just an incredibly efficient 32, 4, and 9. What more can you fucking ask? Like, he is by far and away the leading candidate for Finals MVP after Game 1. Of course, it's just one game, but he had the best performance of anybody today, and it wasn't particularly close. After that, Cam Johnson was really good off of the bench on both ends. I mentioned that steal that he got on Giannis. There were a couple possessions where he actually ended up defending Giannis, and it didn't go as bad as you would think. And Cameron Payne was, when the Bucks started to make their comeback-ish, like they didn't actually make a comeback, but they got it to the point where it was single digits after it was nearly 20 at one point. I think they got it to 7 at one point. Early fourth quarter, that run was happening, and Chris Paul was on the bench, and I think Devin Booker might have been as well. But Cameron Payne was the guy that kind of kept them at bay. He got a really nice drive scoop shot. He hit a three-pointer from pretty far out that was a big and important shot. So, yeah, good on him in that regard. Jay Crowder played like shit. He is like the most streaky player in the league by far. So, not surprised by that one. 0 for 8 from the field, 0 for 5 from 3. Still played good defense, though, on Giannis, so got to give him credit to that. And Miles Bridges had good moments and bad moments, had a streak where he hit a couple shots in a row. But yeah, that kind of summarizes it. Really, though, as much credit as I want to give the Suns for this game, I will say that this game just felt like one team was hitting while the other wasn't. Now, Middleton ended up having a good game, but the reason why this ended up being a pretty big difference, or why it got to, like, I think the highest point was like a 17-point lead. I think the reason it got to that point was because Middleton wasn't making shots at that point, and Drew Holiday was terrible. Now, Giannis will hopefully be better in Game 2. He wasn't bad in this game. He's definitely a positive, but he wasn't Giannis entirely. He was in moments, especially early on. I don't know if the knee just kind of caused his momentum to slow down as time progressed, if he got tired earlier than he would have been, or he started to feel it as the game progressed when he wasn't feeling it early on. But he definitely slowed down. But assuming that Game 2, you get Giannis a little bit more like Giannis, and Drew Holiday has a good game, Chris Middleton is good the entire game and not just like the last 3 minutes of the third quarter through the fourth quarter, and I believe you get a different result, or at least not a 13-point deficit and the Suns feeling like they have control throughout the entirety of the game. Because in the first half, it was actually relatively close at the end. I think it was like a 7-point game in the Suns' favor at the end of the first half, but it felt like they had control the whole way through. It definitely felt like they were the team that was going to win this game, even when it was like 45-45 at one point. It just felt like the Suns were the team that was here to play and doing what they were supposed to do. That's the one thing that you have to say and admire about the Suns, is that game in and game out, they pretty much always give you the same thing. Whether or not what they bring wins the game or not aside, they're consistent as hell. And the Bucks, on the other hand, are wildly inconsistent. That's the biggest problem with them being the team that they are, is that when they're at their heights, they are the best team in basketball, or at the very least up there. But then they can also look like a 45-win team sometimes. And it's very frustrating that they can flip from, here's this team that is capable of winning 70 games, and then here's this team that could win 45. And it's like, same roster, just, I don't know if it's a mental thing. I don't know if it's just the personnel. It's just a lot of guys who are streaky. Drew Holiday can be a little streaky. Chris Middleton is very streaky. But either way, that's the biggest fear on the Bucks side of things, is that you know what you're going to get out of the Suns pretty much every game. With the Bucks, it is a complete coin toss. And that's a pretty good reason to bet on the Suns to win this series. I predicted the Bucks to win in 6 if Giannis was healthy. I'd say Giannis is mostly healthy, but not at his fullest strength for sure. But I'm a little bit more hesitant in that prediction now that the consistency thing, I think, is really going to be a bigger deal than I don't even know if I mentioned it in that video. And if I didn't, that was a big fucking mistake, because that's a huge factor here. But I'm not as confident in Milwaukee now, which sucks, because this is the team that I want to win. That being said, even though I want the Bucks to win this series, I also love this Phoenix Suns team, so it's conflicting, like, watching this team be great, because I'm like, I want the Bucks to win, but also I like the Suns. And also, this Chris Paul masterclass is, mwah, chef's kiss, perfect. So it's very conflicting. Either way, like, I love this series so much. I think this matchup, I think I'm going to title it something like this, something like that. But yeah, I think I've said all I have to say. Is there anything else to say? I don't know. Mike Bootyholzer. That's just fucking hilarious. Bye.